Hi there, my name's Eddie, my pronouns are he, him, and I'm the Wolfsbane Witch. And if you're watching this video, welcome back or welcome to my channel. It's been a little bit since I've posted, but I wanted to make this video today because I've been thinking a lot about this subject and I just kind of wanted to make a sort of, I guess, topic discussion. I don't think that this is like an informational video or anything. I just want to talk about some of the things I've been thinking about, some of the things I've experienced and felt. And I want to see how other people may experience this as well, if they do, or how they might have gotten out of this, because I'm kind of struggling with this a little bit, and I want to see if there's anyone out there who might understand this struggle, or might have gone through this struggle but gotten out of it somehow. And I'd be very interested to know how they did it. And so today I'm going to be talking about struggles with ancestor work as a queer person. Specifically, I'm going to be talking about being a transgender person, but you can apply this to any sort of queer or marginalized identity if that is something that you fall under. Perhaps this might also be related to some of the struggles you may have had with ancestor work as well. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump into some of the thoughts I've been having and some of the struggles I've had, and just talk a little bit about kind of what I've been thinking about lately. So every now and then I will look up the eulogies of people who have passed away within my family, and I'll just like see what was written about them, kind of meditate on them a little bit, and review my memories of them, and I'll use that as sort of ancestor work. But I don't really work with my ancestors, and there's a lot of reasons for this, but mainly it's because I have a lot of fear about working with ancestors. You see, a lot of people in my family were heavily Christian, and a lot of the people in my family were also within denominations of the Christian faith that were very heavily based in the idea of sin or the idea of the rapture. And so they were very preoccupied with this idea of cleansing sin, of forgiving sin, of taking in Christ, of basically Bible thumping, right? And that is kind of a struggle when you are somebody who is a queer person or a transgender person, because oftentimes these ideas of what sin is, or the political outlook of LGBTQ people, is heavily based in the idea that they are sinful, or that they are against God, that they are unnatural, right? So I have a lot of fear about working with my ancestors, especially my more recent ones. The ones that I knew while they were alive is what I'm talking about. Because I don't know what they would think about me. Because when they knew me, when they were alive, I was very young. I was 7 years old, so I believed I was cis. I believed I was heterosexual, I guess. I didn't really think about my sexuality or gender at the time, but, I would have said that I was a little girl who liked boys, and I was also a Christian at that time. So, of course they loved me, right? Of course they didn't see anything wrong with me. Of course they were proud of me when they were alive, because I was exactly what I was supposed to be, right? I was a good little cishet Christian girl. But now that I'm not that, and they're not around anymore, they're not alive anymore, I do have a lot of fear about what they would think of me now. What do their spirits think of me now? Do they even care that I'm trans? Is that something that's all in my head? Or do they actually care? Would they be disgusted in me? Would they want me to change? Would they want me to come back to Christ? I fear a lot of that, and I fear disappointing them. I fear being, even within my own spirituality, labeled the black sheep, because I've always kind of been that black sheep in my family. Even when I thought I was cis or heterosexual, I was always kind of different and a little bit, like I said, just a little bit out there compared to my other family members. And I did things that they didn't really think was the norm for our family, and because of that, I was kind of the black sheep, right? And I still am, for even more reasons now. Um, Especially me being a witch and me being openly trans and all that fun stuff. But I fear that my ancestors would care about that because my living relatives care about that. And that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, is because a lot of the time when you get into spirit work, when you are interested in deity work or working with spirits or whatever, a lot of people will suggest that the first spirits you should reach out to are your ancestors, because they are the safest, because they are always there for you, because they are always looking out for your best, highest good, right? And it's hard for me to believe that because of how most living people are and were when it comes to treating people like me, right? A lot of my living family members don't really understand or quite support me. So how could I expect somebody who died 100 years ago to support me? You know what I mean? Um, how could I expect my deceased grandfather, who died when I was 7, who was a Baptist prayer healer, who ran his own ministry for like the sick and injured, right? And was part of that demographic of my family that was very heavily into sin and the rapture and all that. Um, how could I be sure that he would have my best interest in mind when people from that church congregation who are still alive, who knew him, don't have my best interest in mind? See me as a sinner, see me as something disgusting, something against God, something wrong. How could I trust that my ancestors would be any different? Because they believe that too. And so who do I go to, right? And then that moves me to like my last kind of point, which is this idea of you don't need to venerate ancestors or work with ancestors that were blood related to you. And I do believe that this is true. I believe that, there are cultural ancestors, there are sort of like kindred spirits, people who may have inspired you that have passed on, people within the same similar field as you who may have passed on that inspired you. And I think that that is great to work with them. But I feel like that is one of the only options that I have that feels secure and that feels safe. And I don't like that. I am appreciative of that, and I loved communicating with these spirits, and they have given me so much love and care as if they were my own. But I sense this like bittersweetness because they're not my own. I have to go to somebody else's ancestor, somebody else's bloodline, just to feel like I have an ancestral family, just to feel like I have somebody there to support me. And it kind of goes back to how it is in real life too. Part of the queer community that's like a really big aspect is this idea of found family. And I have found family in real life as well as in my spiritual life, like I was just talking about. And I love my found family. They are for all intents and purposes my family, my people. But even in real life, there is this bittersweetness of the fact that I even need to have a found family. Because the only reason I have a found family is because mine rejected me, is because mine could not stand by me, is because mine could not tolerate me in some ways. Mine could not accept me fully. And the same applies, the same, I guess, bittersweet feeling applies to ancestor work. Because although it is very sweet and loving and great that I can contact, Marsha P. Johnson or Freddie Mercury or, whoever, right? Even though I can do that, and even though I have, and it's been great, they're not mine. And the only reason why I'm going to them is because I fear my own family. Even in the past, even people who I've never met before, even my ancestors, because of who I am, and because of how I fear their reaction to who I am, I feel as if I'm like a monster in my family. Like, I have to search for other people who have also been the black sheeps and also have been the monsters in their family in order to have a community, in order to have a family. And it sucks. As much as I appreciate my found family, both in the spiritual and in the physical world, I wish that I didn't have to have them in some respects. Like, I wish that I could just be enough, that I could just be accepted, that I didn't have to have this fear of being rejected from ancestors that, for most other people, they have the privilege to not even have to think about if their ancestors would reject them based on who they are. And, I think that there is this kind of almost a privilege that a lot of people have, especially cishet white people have. One, for even possibly knowing who their ancestors are, because a lot of people of color, especially African people within the United States, do not have that luxury. They don't know where they're from. They don't know who their ancestors were. They don't even know who their family names were before the slave trade, right? So there is a lot of privilege that comes with ancestor work, and especially that comes with ancestor work without fear, without the idea of rejection, that comes with ancestor work that actually has a name to your ancestors. There's a lot of privilege that comes with that, and I'm not saying that to shame anyone who does have that privilege. I just think that we need to have this conversation so that way people who may not have been aware that that privilege was a thing may now understand that it is a thing, and that there are people out there who ancestor work is not the safest option for them emotionally, and it may not also be the safest option for them just in general, or the easiest option for them. A lot of people, it is more accessible to worship a deity because there is information about that deity, because there are actual resources for that deity, an actual culture around that deity, versus an ancestor who, like I said, you may not even know where they're from, you might not know their name, you might not know anything about them, and you might not even know if they would like you, I think a lot of people take for granted the idea that your ancestors love you and that they're always looking out for you and that they're always good, but I just think that things get a lot more complicated the further away from the norm that you are. And quite frankly, being gay, being bisexual, being transgender, being of mixed race, anything like this can be something that can stifle that accessibility and that sense of safety when it comes to ancestor work. And I wonder if I'm the only person who feels this way. If I feel like I'm not. Like, I know that I'm not, but I see everyone gushing about how great it is to work with their ancestors and how wonderful it is and how, safe they feel. And I feel almost like I can't even wrap my head around that because it's so against what I am experiencing that it almost feels like something out of reach for me, something that I can't attain. And I wonder how other people may have worked through this. Do you just choose to not work with ancestors? Do you choose to work with ancestors who are not blood related to you, like your sort of found family ancestors instead? Do you do a more vague sense of ancestor work, so you don't work with specific ancestors, but you just kind of offer things to them as a symbolic whole? I've done that a couple times, and that's been okay. But it just doesn't feel intimate enough for me. It doesn't feel, I don't know, I just don't feel too much out of it. So I guess I'm just wondering, like, do you think our ancestors care about your identity? Do you think our ancestors care if I'm trans? Do you think that some of them do and some of them don't? How would I even go about figuring that out? Like, how would I know who to contact? How do I make sure I don't contact the wrong ones? Like, I'm not really well versed in working with human spirits, like spirits of people who have actually existed in this world. I tend to work with animal spirits, with deities, with land spirits, with fae, with spirit of place, with plant spirits, things that are not human. So I kind of stumble over myself a lot when it comes to working with human spirits, and understanding how to do that. And I think there's, like I said, this extra layer of fear and uncertainty when it comes to my own ancestor work, because I don't know if my ancestors would actually love me or respect me or want what's best for me because of who I am, because of the fact that so many of my living relatives or ancestors that I did know likely would not like me or likely would not support me because of who I am, right? So, yeah, these are just some of the thoughts I've been having. This is kind of just a thought dump video. But yeah, this has been going on in my mind a lot lately because I really want to start connecting to my ancestors, but I just don't know how. And there's just so many mental and emotional blocks that are getting in my way, specifically around my identity, and really nothing else. Like, I don't care if my ancestors don't like me because I'm a witch, because I'm gonna be a witch anyway. And I don't really care if they don't like me because I'm trans, but I do care at the same time because, that kind of hurts. It's a little bit different, because being a witch is something I choose to do, but being trans isn't. It's just me. And the idea that someone would hate me because I am me, it is a little hurtful, you know? So yeah, that's just kind of what I've been thinking about. Like I said, if you feel something similar to this, if you have any ideas about this, please let me know. Like, I just wanted to make this video as like a start of a discussion on this subject. So my comments are a field day for you. Go ahead, say whatever you need to say. Tell me your stories. Tell me the answers to some of the questions I've asked here if you have any. Like, I just want to learn. I just want to know what to do, where to go next, or if I should just kind of hold off, or what, I just don't really know where to start when it comes to unpacking this. So yeah, that's just kind of what's been on my mind. Hopefully you can understand what I'm trying to get at with this video, and I'll see you in the next one. So take care, and if you've subscribed, thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed and you want to, go ahead and do that. I post videos fairly regularly, and if not, then see you around.